crimes against public decency. These kinds of crimes are often referred to as victimless crimes. Why? Well, because many of these offenses are offenses that people voluntarily engage in, and it's often hard to find a victim. In other kinds of crimes like assault, murder, rape, robbery, we can identify a victim. One person is doing something against another person. But in these kinds of offenses, and we'll see that they include things like prostitution, drug crimes, gambling, a variety of other kinds of behaviors, it's hard to find where someone feels that they've actually been victimized. They may feel like, I really want to engage in these behaviors, why should society care? Well, traditionally we've said we care because it offends the public morality, that we, the public, are the victims. So there may not be a specific victim, but the public is somehow made less whole because of these offenses. And if we have prostitution, even if people are willingly engaging in it, it somehow harms the general public. Because people want to engage in these behaviors, and we're only claiming a broad kind of harm against the public, there's great debate about whether many of these behaviors should even be illegal or not, or should we just let the person decide for themselves? Nevertheless, many of the offenses are still on the books and are still enforced. Some have been legalized. We're seeing legalization of various drug offenses, obviously, now. And in some jurisdictions, things like gambling and prostitution have been legalized, but there are still many jurisdictions where these behaviors are criminal. But again, usually the justification for making them criminal is that they offend the moral code of the community. Let's look first at prostitution. With prostitution, we're really referring to someone providing sexual acts for money or for some other thing of value. In the United States, prostitution is legal everywhere except for a few Nevada counties. Now, people may think that prostitution is legal in Las Vegas because it's in Nevada, but actually Las Vegas and Reno and those major metropolitan areas are not among the counties where prostitution is legal. It's legal in other Nevada counties, but elsewhere in Nevada and in the United States, prostitution is still illegal. In some countries, prostitution has been legalized. For instance, I take a group of students to the Netherlands every summer, and prostitution there has been legal pretty much throughout modern Dutch history. They have made other kinds of things connected to prostitution illegal, like being a pimp, making money off of a prostitute. But prostitution itself has been legal for the last couple hundred years, at least in the Netherlands, and some would say it's always been legal. Other countries take different approaches than the United States and the Dutch in responding to prostitution. So in the United States, we pretty much have taken the criminal approach. We're going to punish everybody involved in prostitution. The prostitute and the prostitute's customer, the John. In the Netherlands, we just said prostitution is legal. Another option is what's known as the Nordic model. We'll find it in the Scandinavian countries. And under this model, the focus is not on the prostitute. So being a prostitute is not illegal, but being a customer of a prostitute is illegal. So paying someone for sex is illegal. So the Scandinavians, under the Nordic model, take the approach that we want to punish the people who are paying the prostitutes because we think that they're in a better financial, economic, class place than the prostitutes. They want to take a more protective approach to the prostitutes. So they're not going to punish the prostitutes, but they'll punish the customers. Whether this approach works better than any of the others or not is subject to debate, but this is a different kind of approach. Because traditionally, in places like the United States, we may punish the customers, we certainly do, arrest people for going to a prostitute, but we tend to focus more of our prohibition on the actual prostitutes. We are arresting the streetwalkers more than their customers. In the Nordic model, that's turned on its head, and the police direct their activities at the customers, not the prostitutes. Within any of these models, most would argue that our major goal should be harm reduction. Now, the U.S. probably does this the least of any of these models, the legalization model, the Nordic model, or the U.S. pure penal approach. With harm reduction, what we're saying is we try to study this behavior. Why do people go to prostitutes? Why do people become prostitutes? And as we look at that behavior, we try to figure out, well, what are the harms that are involved? Are people being forced into prostitution? Are they passing on diseases? Are there other problems? And so if we know that it's very likely that prostitution is going to continue, it's called the oldest profession for a reason. It's been with us throughout history, and it will continue to be with us throughout history. Does a purely criminal approach really work? Does strict criminal prohibition really reduce the harms and the dangers associated with prostitution? Does it do the best job in making sure that people aren't being trafficked, that they aren't passing on diseases, etc., etc., etc.? Or do one of these other approaches we've just mentioned, the Dutch approach of legalization or the Nordic approach, do these do a better job of reducing those harms? Well, my familiarity is with the Dutch system, and under the Dutch system, the Dutch have said, again, prostitution is going to exist, let's make it as safe as possible. So they want prostitution to be out in the public as much as possible. So prostitution is legal, it can occur in full view of the police, but that also means that the police can come to the assistance of a prostitute or to the prostitute's customer. They can also have medical experts come in and talk to the prostitutes and make sure the prostitute is practicing safe sex. The prostitutes we've interviewed actually say they are more likely to practice safe sex than an ordinary person who is promiscuous, because the prostitutes are in a business of having sex, and they obviously don't want to die. They don't want to be seriously ill. They don't want to contract any kind of disease, so they are going to demand that safe sex be practiced, maybe more than the ordinary person who goes to a bar and picks up somebody. And so the prostitutes in the Netherlands say, because it's legal, they can refuse if someone comes up and says, well, we want to have sex without a condom. They're on sturdier ground to say, no, I'm not going to do that. And you can't force me to do it. So by having an open kind of environment around prostitution, the prostitutes can get help, they can assert their rights, they can have those rights protected. According to the prostitutes I've talked to, they feel like under this system, they are more empowered than under the other systems where, especially in the U.S., where prostitution is illegal.